Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening for the people who are watching us live, wherever they happen to be around the world. Today, I have the great pleasure to invite you and take a short journey with me as we challenge some of the assumptions that we take, assumptions pertaining to education and learning that we don't question often and we seldom put to the test. I invite you, as I address your minds and your hearts with important questions that we should be worrying about and we should be very concerned with, either as students, as educators, as parents, or for that matter, any person who strives so hard and aspires to achieve what I might call full human potential. So today we'll be talking about multiple intelligences and its connection to education, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we call intuitive thinking and the heart as a seat and a source of knowledge. And I will also be referring to love as the culmination, as the final, highest, most sublime symbolization of such way of thinking, which we call intuitive thinking. So, I invite you to imagine with me a world or a life where everyone is appreciated and valued for the ability to give and receive love and to live with love. In the same way, today we are valuing our kids in the classrooms to be performing really well when it comes to academic or intellectual enterprise. You can just think about how we all react to a genuine or a beautiful smile from a kid. It all makes us happy because we all share the same language, the language of the heart. For those who had the chance to watch a very successful Japanese documentary film about a sensei in Kanazawa Prefecture, whose name is Kanamori Sensei, and the title of the movie is Children Full of Life. Of course, this is the translated version in English, and the message that Mr. Kanamori spread to his students in the classroom is that if there is any important principle that we should live with, it is that we should be happy. That's the basic thing in life. Everyone wants to be happy, and we need to care for each other. And this is a question that I'm asking today, and I think it's quite a legitimate question to ask. To what extent are our education systems around the world helping us, helping you, helping our kids, being happy? Of course, such a question only encourages us to ask more questions and to challenge some of the assumptions. And one strong, really common belief among many people nowadays is that we think that only people who perform well at a certain school subjects, which we call natural science, for example, mathematics, chemistry, physics, biology, engineering, we call them hard science. So we think that only students who are doing well in these school subjects are smart. Whereas the other students who are doing better, let's say in humanities or liberal arts, we don't consider them to be as smart as the people who are doing better in natural, pure science. And just look at the name, look at the appellation. We call them hard science as opposed to soft science. So even the appellation is indicative of a hierarchy in preferences, hierarchy in priorities. Of course, this the movie Children full of life, is not the only movie. Maybe one of the first really interesting movies was made in France, and the title is L'école buissonnière, which, by the way, I watched about 14 years ago when I was a teacher trainee, and it's translated into Passion for Life, and also another one, Dead Poets Society, and then you can name more, like there's also the interesting one, Paris à mille pas. It's a great educational movie made by Bollywood. So what these movies have in common is that they highlight one great message, is that we should put students at the heart of our learning teaching process. We should try to make them happy. But of course, maybe we are not being successful. Of course, this is not a new issue. In 1983, I would call him great contributor and developmental psychologist Howard Gardner suggested something very interesting in his what now people consider to be a classic book, a masterpiece in cognition and education. He suggests that we don't have one single intelligence actually, but that we have multiple intelligences, and this include interpersonal, intrapersonal intelligence, kinesthetic bodily intelligence, musical intelligence, spatial or visual intelligence, natural, or some call it existential intelligence, and verbal, linguistic, and mathematical or logical intelligence are only two types. So the contribution of Howard Gardner is great, and many of what you see now and today in education has been influenced by his contribution, by questioning again what are the possible intelligences we as human beings have. And to take the discussion a bit further, I also suggest that we talk a little bit about the anatomy of the brain. For educators, we all know that it is necessary for every single learner that certain needs must be met. And this, of course, if you look at the brain, this part is called the reptilian brain, or what we call the primitive or survival brain. And it's responsible for instinctive, responsive, automated needs such as breathing. It's automated. You know, the need for food because of hunger or thirst, need for warmth when it's cold. So these are basic. And this explains why people in Africa, in marginalized and not very privileged regions, if they cannot satisfy these needs, they cannot go to the second level. So in the brain, the second level, called the limbic system, and this is very important for my talk today, which is responsible for emotions, for feeling, for love, for memory, for we store, as time goes by, and as we live, we store positive signals from our experience. So it's only then, if the needs of the students are met here as basic and here as emotional, it's only then that we can move to cognition, the ability to learn languages, the ability to think in critical, analytic way. So, and actually there are some people who are trying to prove that there is a fourth level in the brain here somewhere. They call it the spiritual brain. Of course, there isn't much evidence, so we need more research to back up such a claim. It's kind of a strong claim, but still people think this way. So if students face problems, if they don't feel comfortable, if they are studying in a learning environment that is not anxiety-free, so that explains why so many students hate some school subjects, because they don't feel comfortable. They are not respected for who they are as human beings. And I will take the discussion a little bit further by referring to United States of America, where, by the way, maybe I can make some connection with my personal experience. So for the last 3 years I had the chance, it's a really privileged opportunity to me, that I was part of 3 international programs One is the reason why I'm standing here. Scholarship I got from Morocco as a part of a QE in Kinshasa program. And 3 years ago, as an international leaders in education program fellow in America, and then as the host of American teachers in my country, Morocco, as part of Teachers for Global Classrooms program. Now why am I mentioning this experience? Because through this experience, I do some observation in some schools in America, here in Japan, and back in my country, as I perform as a teacher. And there is one thing that is common among all learners. They all seem to agree that their learning experience is first and foremost an emotional experience. It's a social experience. It's true, it has to do with being able to analyze, it has to do with being able to think critically and solve mathematical problems, but it's also an emotional experience. So in America, for example, the best-selling poet is Jalaluddin Rumi. And Jalaluddin Rumi, for those who don't know him, is a 12th century philosopher, scholar, and a poet. So his message, even if he is an 800-year-old, his message still finds a strong echo in America. He's a best-selling poet. And we are allowed to ask the question, what is the reason? Why would a poet from 12th century his message still have meaning nowadays, and even in a developed country like America? So actually, this only tells us that we humans have a thirst inside us. There is a deep longing. We feel it. Sometimes it's hard to talk about it, but it's there. We are created maybe for love. Because one great message by Jalaluddin Rumi is that love is the essence of being. And what implications does such a stance on the heart as a seat of knowledge, and love as being something that we should be courageous to talk about, is what effect could such a stance have on our education systems? So I think, as many thinkers before me came to this important conclusion, that to educate the mind without educating the heart is actually no education at all. And sometimes it's our education system that creates a kind of a barrier, a kind of an obstacle to love. And as Jalaluddin Rumi said, your task is not to seek for love, because it's there. But your task and my task is to seek inside us and try to find those barriers that we have built against love. Because that's the natural state. That's the natural situation. And sometimes education, and this is not to downgrade the role of education or the analytical mind, but simply to say that the human experience is so complex. Life is full of secrets. It's too much more complex than what the analytical mind alone will be able to solve. And the other interesting misconception about love is that we usually think it's a weakness to talk about love. Bertrand Russell, for example, says, to fear love is to fear life. And those who fear life are already 3 parts dead. And the same message by the famous Brazilian Paulo Freire, educationalist, same message by Aristotle 1,000 years ago, that we have to consider educating the heart, as we have been so diligent and working so hard to make humanity think better, analytically speaking. So, indeed, such a question is problematic. It's not easy to tackle, because for a long time ago, some people thought that the heart is the seat and the source of love. Others thought that it's the intuitive mind, as Albert Einstein suggests. Albert Einstein says the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. And the rational, the analytical mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Recently, and I can mention an example from Heart Math Institute, they came to realize that the heart is not only a simple organ that pumps blood, but the heart is made of about 60% of neural cells, very similar to the ones we have in the brain. Very similar. And that the highest and the largest electromagnetic field we can get comes from the heart, not the mind. There's serious research about this. So we have to reconsider whether the heart is responsible for love, whether the mind, or whether there's some connection, very complex, sophisticated connection with the brain and the heart. We as teachers should carry on teaching and integrating love as part of our teaching practices in the classroom. That's very important. So with this message, I say, dear friends, have the courage to live with love. For love can enable and can guarantee us that we can empower the next generations. It's with love that we become strong, not weak. Because when you have a loving generation, you have a safe generation, able to live against adversities. As Din Rumi says in a very wonderful quote, he says, the wound is the place where the light enters you. So imagine if we live with this kind of wisdom. So any adversities in life can be turned into a positive opportunity for us to learn from it. So with this I say, live with love, believe in it, and if you want a hug, then you have to open your arms. Thank you so much.